I'm Leite Youngren. I'm the VP of Marketing here at Triple Seat, and welcome to the second of a four-part series of sales and marketing seminar. Our team will be focusing on teaching sales and marketing tactics to help drive your business to hospitality venues. This can benefit not only sales and event managers, but anyone working today in the industry. You will get a basic understanding of what is crucial to getting your business found, promoted, and booked. Our industry has faced incredible challenges over the last year, and while we aren't quite through this yet, you can prepare yourselves and put yourself in the best position to return to in-person events and to continue your current efforts like catering and special offerings. Throughout this seminar, you will learn proven inbound and outbound marketing tips that generate event leads, a driven sales process that gets deals booked, and how to close more event business and how to negotiate better. Today's second webinar is about outbound marketing techniques, and it's hosted by Kate Kennedy. She's our Senior Communications and Product Marketing Manager. Kate's a Triple Seat, has over 20 years experience working in the hospitality and events industry, including 5 years working as the Director of Marketing Events for a large nightclub group in Boston and around the country. She also has her master's degree in marketing and has been working for Triple Seat for 5 years. Kate, come on and take it away and tell us all about outbound marketing.
Hi. Can you hear me, Lisa?
Yep.
Okay.
You're on. I'm leaving.
All right.
Bye. Bye.
All right. So hi, everyone. I'm so happy you all decided to join today to learn a little something about outbound marketing. I do want to let everyone know, I know Leita mentioned this, but our presentations cover a lot of information, and we don't expect you guys to take notes on everything. That would be insane. So we are recording these webinars, and we'll link to each one in a separate blog post explaining some of the content in more detail. So please don't feel like you have to write everything down. All right, and with that, let's get the show on the road. Let me click to my slide. Sorry, I have too many things going on here at once. All right, here we go. Slide number 2. All right, outbound marketing, also known as making it impossible for prospects to ignore what you're selling. So I've heard a lot of marketers express their hatred of outbound marketing and how they feel it's just spamming your leads. But there's one thing they can't deny about outbound marketing is that it works. So let's be clear here. We don't want to annoy the crap out of people who could potentially bring in revenue for your business. That would be dumb. But what we do want to do with our outbound marketing efforts is nurture your potential clients and firmly, yet also carefully, persuade them to buy what you're selling. So let's start with a simple definition here. Outbound marketing is any type of marketing efforts where the business starts a conversation with the client. Some examples. All right, email, which I'll obviously cover extensively today. Direct mail, which includes flyers, coupons in the mail, other things that you could send out in the mail. And cold calling, which Jono will cover in the second half of this presentation. And finally, media buys like ads or commercials. So in order for outbound marketing to be successful, you can't just send one email or run one ad in the newspaper and think the customers are going to be lined up outside your door. Outbound marketing, as I said before, is a nurturing process, and that process is also known as, slide 4, the 6 to 8 touches approach. Okay, so outbound marketing is the key to this approach, which basically says that in order to generate a viable sales lead, you have to touch your prospects at least 6 times and up to 8. So don't go out and literally touch them. That would be weird. Touch in this instance refers to those outbound marketing modes that we talked about before. So for example, maybe you start with a simple email, you follow up with a more direct and personalized email, then you move on to a phone call, which leads to another email, followed by a flyer in the mail, and an online advertisement just to remind them of you again. Of course, you can also include inbound marketing efforts in these 6 to 8 touches, like social posts, Facebook Lives, etc. They can all count as a touch, but you really need to make sure that at least half and preferably more of your touches are on the outbound side. So what do you do first when you're building a stellar outbound marketing campaign? Well, you make sure you have a contact list worth spending your time on. That's super important. So moving on to the next slide. the contact lists and why the heck it's so important. You may have friends in other industries, right, who have gone online and purchased prospect lists and had great success marketing to them, but hospitality is different. And I cannot caution you enough, stay away from purchase lists. They are unreliable and will cost you way more than they're worth in the end. So just make me a promise and stay away from them. No one enjoys getting spam mail from business, right? Especially from a business they've never even heard of. Not to say that people haven't heard of your restaurant. I'm just saying it's better to collect contact information with permission. So you can post a sign-up sheet anywhere you have an active audience. Inside your restaurant or venue is an obvious option. And something I'm sure you've all seen are those promotional sign-up cards. Some restaurants have put them in the check presenters that you get at the end of the meal. So that's a great idea to get people to sign up for your newsletter and other promotions. Social media is a great place to post a sign-up page. If they follow you on social, they obviously have an interest in what you're selling. So that's a great way to get some good leads. Your website is another great place. You could add a pop-up asking people to sign up to receive promotions, or you can link to the sign-up sheet on your most popular pages so you can lead people there with every step they take on your website. Another great way to get solid contact lists is to use an email marketing software like Constant Contact or MailChimp, both of which integrate with Triple Seat, by the way. Both systems offer sign-up sheets and list building tools with a regular subscription, and I'll talk a little more about those softwares later on in the presentation. And why is all of this so important? Well, it's simple. If you send people emails without their permission, you could get reported, and if you get reported over and over again, you'll get blocked, and all of your hard work and time will be for nothing. You'll end up like the sad person that I put on the slide over here, who is really upset that her emails got her nowhere. So now that you have the greatest contact list of all time, let's talk about breaking that list apart into segments. Segmenting is one of my favorite topics, believe it or not. All right, so we'll start the discussion off with a stat. A recent study done by the marketing gods at HubSpot found that segmented email sends receive 14% more opens, 63% higher clicks, and 8% fewer unsubscribes. So those numbers may not seem super high to you, but in the world of marketing, they're like astronomical, I promise. So what is segmenting exactly? Simply stated, it's the process of separating your contact list by certain demographic and or behavioral characteristics. So basically, in the same way you filtered your Triple Seat report, you would filter your your contacts even further that way. So that's segmenting. And some examples of segmenting a list to contain only corporate clients. You could segment this list even further and create a list of only corporate clients who booked lunch meetings. Even further would be corporate clients who booked lunch meetings over $5,000. You could get super intricate with these segmentings, and the possibilities truly are endless with this. It really depends on who your target audience is and what you're selling. So now that your lists are ready to go, we should talk about the email itself. And there's no better place to start than with the email's from line, preview text, and that pesky subject line that everyone seems to always get wrong, to be honest with you. You're not alone, I promise. So the from line. You may think that there isn't much to say about this like small minor email detail, but you'd be totally wrong. The from line can be really important when it comes to whether or not your prospect will even entertain opening your email. So some big points here are always use a person's name in the from line, even if you are including the business name as well. So for example, instead of sending out marketing emails for Triple Seat that just say from Triple Seat, my emails say Kate from Triple Seat. Also make sure that the person you're using in the from line is familiar to your audience. So I'd like to think that people who use Triple Seat know my name because I send out so many marketing emails, but maybe not. And in that case, maybe I would use Jono's name. So Jonathan Morse, the CEO of Triple Seat. Sometimes I like to send out emails that say Jonathan Morse from Triple Seat. I'm not sure if he enjoys it as much as I do, but as long as the person is familiar, then you have a more chance of people to actually open the email that you're sending. So the preview text. Let me first tell you that the preview text is only something that you can edit if you're using an email marketing platform like Constant Contact or MailChimp. So some people don't even know what the preview text is. And it is basically, it's that snippet that you see underneath the subject line when an email appears in your inbox. It's just another chance for you to grab your audience's attention if the subject line didn't do it on its own. So just make sure your preview text supports your subject line. That's huge. For example, if your subject line reads, "Thank you for your support, here's 20% off your next order," your preview text should say something like, "Now open for in-house dining, take 20% off your next meal," or whatever the offer is that you're promoting. They should correlate with each other. It's important to keep this text to around 30 to 60 characters. And something that I always do to ensure the preview text looks good in an inbox is I send myself drafts with different preview texts to see which one looks best and which one works best. Because a lot of times they'll cut off at a weird word and it doesn't make any sense. So you just want to make sure it makes sense and it flows right. So now let's move on and talk about that pesky subject line. So every single time I talk about the importance of your email subject line, my mind immediately goes to the song "Lose Yourself" by Eminem, which I'm sure all of you, or if not all of you, most of you are familiar with. So it says, "If you had one shot or one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip?" And that, my friends, is the power of the email subject line. Eminem is so wise. So you want to capture your audience's attention with the subject line. What are you offering them? What problem are you solving? Keep it accurate and on topic. No one enjoys being played, right? So this isn't the time for a bait and switch. In other words, don't make them think they're getting something they're not from opening the email. It's just mean, it's rude. No one's going to want to receive an email from you ever again if you do that. So keep it short, keep it sweet, about 5 to 10 words maximum is what I'd say. And avoid spam language at all costs. Finding out which words are more likely to put your email in the spam box is as simple as doing a Google search for spam trigger words. That's all it takes. And there's hundreds of lists out there, and they'll tell you which words to not use ever in a subject line. Okay, so much information here. Let's move on to the meat and bones of your email, which are email bodies and CTAs. So here I've given you a few important questions that you must ask yourself before sending out a marketing email. Is your message delivering value? What problems are you solving? For example, 10% off a lunch catering order. Is the value relevant to your audience? Does your audience even order lunch catering? If the answer is no, then you should probably reevaluate your offer or reevaluate the segmented list you're sending this offer to. So once the value is delivered, are you asking them to click? Marketers call this the give and then ask approach. It's super important to give something first before you ask them to do something. So this is where your CTAs or calls to action come into play. CTAs are those buttons in emails, or they look like buttons that say, click here, read more, get the deal, whatever it may be. They can also be within the text, like highlighted script that leads them to somewhere else online. So highlighted script that you just highlight and place in your URL. That can also be seen as a CTA. You can use your email marketing software to pinpoint on which CTAs your audience is clicking the most on, so you can improve on future emails. So if you use MailChimp or Constant Contact, and there's hundreds of other email softwares out there that you could use, they all track where people are clicking in your email. So if no one's clicking on one button that you're continuously putting in your emails, it's time to remove that button. Get rid of it, get a new CTA, think up something else. It's all about try and try and try again. It's not, email marketing, you're not going to learn it overnight. You need to keep trying new things, and eventually everything will work out in the end. So your CTAs should draw a straight line of thought from your subject line. So it's basically the same as the preview text of the subject line. Those should correlate, and your CTAs should correlate with your subject line as well. If the CTAs don't match up to what you said you were offering in the subject line, then your email is trash. And that's that whole bait and switch thing we were talking about. If you've answered yes to all of these questions that I listed, then you have yourself a pretty solid marketing email. So let's jump into a topic that I hold very dear to my heart. I'm serious about this. Drip campaigns. They can also be known as lifecycle emails, automated email campaigns, and marketing automation. And they're a huge part of outbound marketing. So if you've never worked directly in marketing, you might not know what a drip campaign is. And it's pretty simple, actually. It takes us back to that 6 to 8 touches approach that I talked about at the beginning of the webinar. So selling your restaurant isn't a one-step process. You have to nurture your prospects with 6 to 8 touches in order to turn them into a viable sales lead. We went over this already, obviously. The drip campaign takes this process and puts a personal touch on it. So what does it do? Or what does it entail, rather? So the message timing of a drip campaign has a set course. When using email marketing software, which again, I'll get to later in the presentation, the set timing is automatic and the software knows when it's time to send out the next email, whether that's a few days, a week, a month, or even over the course of several months to a year and beyond. All you have to do is set up the flow in your email marketing system and it will run automatically. So now the next step in a drip campaign is the emails each lead receives is based on their customer behavior. So this is huge in a drip campaign. For example, you could write one intro email introducing your leads to your new catering service. The next email your lead receives from you is based on what they did to that first email. If they opened it and clicked on your CTA to your catering menu, then you can send them an email thanking them for checking out the menu and a coupon maybe for like 5% off their first order. So for those leads that opened the email but didn't click anywhere, maybe you send them more information like pictures of your catering options, videos of your catering services, or a coupon for even more money off, 10% off, or something more enticing so that they'll want to click further. And this goes on and so forth until the last email you send to all of them in the drip campaign is a thank you for ordering your catering and possibly a new deal to entice them to book again. So that's the way a drip campaign works. It all depends on what email each person gets, all depends on what they did with the last email they received. So the sequence allows you to nurture your leads with more purpose and more personalization, making them feel as though you're only talking to them and not a list of 100 leads. And it goes without saying that one of the best ways to close a deal is to dangle a carrot, right? So offering them discounts within the drip campaign is a smart move. It's almost a must. I mean, you don't have to offer discounts, but like I said, dangle the carrot, they'll jump at it, right? So it's a really smart drip campaign move. And emails are really the backbone of drip campaigns, but you can certainly add in other forms of outbound marketing to the mix, like a follow-up call after the first 2 emails, or a flyer with a coupon to order again after the first catering order is complete, so on and so forth. And I think the why use a drip campaign is pretty obvious at this point. They really do build trust between you and your leads. It shortens the sales funnel until all you have left are viable sales leads that are more likely to make a purchase from you, which is what you want. It's going to save you time and save you money. And then a few fun stats that I wanted to add that I found on some marketing forums on drip campaigns. So open rates for drip campaigns are about 80% higher than single send emails. 80% higher than a mass email. That's insane. Lead nurturing emails get 4 to 10 times the response rates compared to mass email blasts. That's also a huge number. And finally, businesses that excel at drip campaigns generate 80% more sales at 33% lower costs. I mean, those numbers are crazy to me. So that leads me to my final point on drip campaigns. They protect you from draining an already non-existent marketing budget, right? No one has the budget for marketing right now, especially right now. So yes, they take time, but they don't take a ton of resources and are relatively inexpensive to run. In addition, nurturing leads with the drip campaign ensures you're spending your marketing time on viable leads, valuable leads that are going to bring in money. Okay, next slide. Okay, so let's discuss a few email marketing software options. I've mentioned them 100 times already. So I'm only going to focus right now on the 2 that integrate with Triple Seat because those are the ones I know the most about. I've actually used both of these. But if you just do a Google search for email marketing software, there are about 100 or more options to fit any need and budget. So you don't have to use one of these 2. These are just the 2 I'm going to talk about today. So when comparing them, both MailChimp and Constant Contact offer level-based subscription price per month, but MailChimp actually offers a free version with limited features. So you're probably not going to get that segmentation. You're not going to get the drip campaign availability with a free version, but at least you could try it out, test it out, and use some of their templates and go from there. But both systems offer free email templates. So once you have the lowest subscription, you can get those free email templates, which might be helpful Both offer automated drip campaign creation, although I do believe the level at which MailChimp offers this is less expensive than Constant Contacts. Both offer A/B split testing. So A/B split testing is great. I use this once in a while with some of my marketing campaigns. It's basically just a feature that will send out 2 emails that are almost identical, except for the subject line and maybe the CTAs. So you can track them, and the system will track them for you, and you can see which gets the better response and which one gets opened more, so you can adjust future campaigns to match. I think that's an important feature to have, and one that's kind of fun to play around with. Constant Contact actually offers real-time email status reporting, which I was obsessed with when I used Constant Contacts, because it will tell you at the moment a lead opens an email in real time. I feel like that's like huge. I mean, Triple C does it, right? But but now you have like you can send your marketing emails out to leads, and this system's gonna do it too. So I couldn't find anything listed on MailChimp's features that like correlate to this, but I could be mistaken. They might offer it as well. I'm just not sure. Both of them offer advanced segmentation and reporting capabilities with higher level subscriptions. So again, I do believe MailChimp might be less expensive at this level, but you're gonna have to do some research on your own to find that out. In the end, I would check them both out and see what else is out there to fit your specific needs and budget. Like I said, there's so many of them. It does make it easier for our Triple Seat users that they do integrate. Because I didn't talk about before, but another good way to pull contacts, viable contact lists, is to just use Triple Seat and pull those reports directly from your contacts reports. I didn't mention that today because this webinar isn't about using Triple Seat, so I didn't want to get too in detail about that. But these 2 softwares do integrate with Triple Seat, so it makes it easier pulling those reports and sending them directly to a marketing system. So before I pass the baton over to Jonathan, who is going to talk about cold calling, which I hate, but he's really good at it, I did want to touch on direct mail marketing. It may sound prehistoric, but it can be a valuable tool within your outbound marketing plan. Direct mail can be added as a step in a drip campaign. Maybe after several emails, you send out a flyer with your catering menu and a coupon attached. It's a great way. I think it's a good way to like show face, like, right away, like, oh, I got an email from them and now I'm getting this flyer. It happened to me, and I did a podcast recently where I talked about how I got dripped, is what I called it. And basically, I had ordered catering for my daughter's birthday over the summer from a great company. They're a Triple C customer. Everything was awesome. And then about 2 months ago, I received an email from them talking about how I could order my catering for the holidays through them. And I didn't need catering for the holidays, but I was like, oh, I'll keep that in mind for like when I do need it. And then I got another email that had a coupon in it. And I was like, oh, that's good to have. And then literally a week later, I got a piece of mail, a flyer with their new catering menu and an even bigger coupon attached to it. So now I'm like, I am definitely ordering catering from them the next time I need it. So it does work. It's just sometimes direct mail, it can be expensive. You have to pay for the design elements, you have to pay for the printing, and then you have to pay for the postage. So especially right now where budgets probably aren't, as big as they used to be, it might not be the best time to send out direct mail, but it does work. And it can also be done without a target audience, right? So like with emails, you really need to segment and get down to that like specific list. But when it comes to direct mail, you could just send out a bunch of direct mail to people in your area, so you're hitting local people. But that obviously wouldn't be part of a drip campaign. It would just be a mass send out of a direct mail. It's also really important with direct mail to track your results on your own, because when you send out emails, email campaigns, the tracking is basically done for you by whatever email marketing software you're using. But with direct mail, you have to find a way to track its success on your own. Whether that's offering a coupon and asking that the customer actually turn the coupon in so that you can keep track of it that way, or simply like making a note on the flyer that says like, mention this flyer to get, whatever off your next catering order. And then that way, whoever answers the phones and takes the orders can keep track of the numbers there too. So just so you know if it's actually working or if it was a waste of money. Keep in mind that, like I said before, it can be really costly to do direct mail. So just, don't get all excited about it and then be like, I can't afford this. Like maybe it's best used at a different time. But if you have design ability and you can design your own flyer, then, you're already halfway there. So last slide. That wraps up my segment on outbound marketing with email. And like I said before, I realized that was a ton of information. And again, we will link to the recording of this webinar in a blog post. And, just keep in mind that email marketing isn't simply sending out a mass email to a list of hundreds or thousands of contacts at once. It takes some practice, and not all campaigns are going to work out the way you want them to. But don't get discouraged. Just take the data you have from the campaigns that you did, and the campaigns that didn't work is great data, because just change it the next time you run a campaign. Try and again. So if you do, I did want to mention, if you have any questions for me, you can type them in the Q&A tab, and I'll answer them at the end when Jonathan is done. So without further ado, I present to you Triple Seat's fearless leader, founder, and CEO, Jonathan Morse, who will be speaking to all of you today about the joys of cold calling.
Thanks, Kate. And by the way, Kate is a force of nature. It's good to see Kate without a cocktail in her hand, because I don't know if you all know this, she does cocktails with Kate. I think it's every month. With James, where she shares her favorite drink. And she also does the Two Chicks podcast with Rachel, which is also worth checking out. Kate, what is that podcast name, and where can they find it?
Two Chicks, Three Seats. And you can search for it literally anywhere you listen to podcasts, and on our website as well, if you want.
Right. And tons of fun information about the event industry and just about everything in general. And also a big shout out to Azure. She's our social media expert. She does a fantastic job with it. It was taken away from me years ago because I wasn't very good at it. And of course, Leita, who's our VP of marketing, who's been with me almost from the beginning, pulling all this together. I shared this idea like 3 days ago and said, hey, we're doing this. Make it work. Yeah. So, but of course they left the worst subject last and with me. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about cold calling, but before I launch into it, let me give you a little history of my background. I obviously am the founder and CEO of Triple Seat. I founded Triple Seat in 2008, and the reason I founded Triple Seat was because I wanted to help event managers and event sales managers in restaurants do their job in a more productive and effective way, and really just to elevate the event business from being looked at as something events happen in December versus really happen is year round, and they represent 30 to 35% of the revenue of a restaurant that does events. With COVID happening, 2020 was just a terrible year, and even worse year for events. But restaurants, hotels, unique venues did a wonderful job pivoting, with micro weddings and what have you. Trying to get there, just to hold on and to survive. My view of 2021 is like, it's not 2020. My view of 2021, in a lot of places I've read and looked at, they said 2021 is going to be like the roaring 20s after the Spanish flu. And which that means is that event business is just going to explode. It's just going to go crazy. But the restaurants just can't sit on their hands and wait for the business to come. That's just not a good strategy. It's now is the time to kind of take the bull by the horns, and get after it. And my hope here is that through the inbound marketing with Azure and the outbound marketing with Kennedy, we can give you some ideas that help you get the word out that you're open for business. You might not be open for business in January, but you're definitely going to be open for business in March, April, May, June, July, going forward. So you can start booking business today for business that is going to happen in the future. So with that, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about cold calling. The reason I know about cold calling is I had a cold call to get Triple Seat off the ground. I was the salesperson. My background is in sales. I used to be the event sales manager for Back Bay Restaurant Group, which owns Paparazzi, Joe's American Bar and Grill, Charlie's, a few others. That was back in the 90s. And I was also the catering and event sales manager for the Starwood Hotels, which now owns everything, owns Westin, Sheraton. Back then, I was working at the Boston Park Plaza Hotel. When I took that job as the event salesperson, how I was greeted was, go get business. I was just like, okay. And I had what then was considered the worst segment, which was corporate. Everybody wanted social, everybody wanted weddings. And the reason they wanted that is because social was more recurring, like they did the same social fundraising event every year, and it was a big to-do. Weddings are weddings, like brides are always looking for places to hold their weddings, but corporate really didn't do much back then. And I had to figure out a way to bring corporate business into the hotel, or I'd be out of a job. So how I did that was simple. I bought a list. I said, show me all the businesses that are in a 30-mile radius of the hotel. And I simply picked up the phone and said, hey, can I speak to the person who does events? And I did it day in and day out. And it wasn't easy. There was a lot of heavy lifting, but it panned out. By the time after the first year, I was the number one salesperson. I beat weddings. I beat social, and I got a promotion. And it was just strictly from me picking up the phone. So without further ado, as Kennedy likes to say, let me tell you a little bit about cold calling. First of all, I call it warmish calling. And the reason I call it that is because if you're doing a drip campaign and you're sending out emails to these people, all you're really doing is following up on that email. You've already introduced yourself through that email. So it's not necessarily a cold call. It's kind of a cold call, but it's kind of a lukewarm call. And that's a good way to look at it. Don't get me wrong. Cold calling is the worst. It absolutely is. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's tough. It's hard to do. It's a mental game with yourself. It's like working out. It's like, oh, do I really want to go to the gym today? And you can find a million excuses of why you don't want to do it. But if you're going to be successful, cold calling has to be part of your mix. So steps to get yourself mentally ready is one, physical activity. Get physically active. Get pumped. Do physical activity, get your blood flowing and put you in another state. I used to pace, and by the way, when you're doing cold calling, you don't have to sit at your desk. A lot of people I know who do cold calling, they move. They walk back and forth. They don't sit there and just be like, oh, they actually are moving. I'm a mover too. When I talk, I'm constantly going back and forth. If you live in a quiet area, you can do it outside. You can physically do the cold calls like I used to do them in my backyard. Visualization. No one has ever been physically hurt over the phone. This is what I tell our inside salesperson. Put yourself in a state that no matter what happens, you'll be okay. There's no record that somebody croaked by making a cold call. You might get your feelings hurt. People might hang up on you. People might call you names, and expect that. But it's not everyone. You'll get 1 out of 100, and you probably caught them on a bad day. But 2 is that I don't know anybody who doesn't want to hear from a restaurant. I mean, people typically don't want to hear from a software company or from somebody selling something, but hearing from a restaurant is pretty unique. I can tell you personally that I've never gotten a cold call from a restaurant. I would definitely take that call. If my favorite restaurant called me up, and I'll be like, hey, that's pretty cool. So you have that advantage that really the people you're calling into, they really rarely hear from a restaurant or a hotel. Expand your comfort zone. The first 1 to 3 calls are always to get you into the right state. So see them that way. They're not that important. It's okay if you fail or if you pitch is not yet on point. There are means to prepare yourself. I can't tell you how many times I started a cold call and I totally screwed it up and I so panicked I hung up. But that's okay. It's okay. You know, you're human. You're talking to another human. It's okay that you're not perfect, and don't put that kind of pressure on yourself that you have to be perfect. You're not going out on stage playing the piano. You're just having a conversation. And if you do screw up, you could do what I do and just hang up, or you could just say, oh my God, I screwed up. Can I try again? It puts you more human, to be honest with you, on the person at the other end of the phone. Set yourselves up for success. Have a script or outline of what you want to say or what your voicemail will be. Don't wing it. Have a script in front of you. Write it out. Make the lettering really big so you can see it. Put it right next to you. When people go on the news, they're not winging it. They have a script. They have a teleprompter in front of them. You should too. Do some research on who you're calling so you know who you're talking to. Have the prospect's name if you can find it. Info on what, if anything, they've done with you in your business in the past. It's a much easier phone call to say, hey, can I speak with Barry? And you get connected and say, hey, Barry, this is Jono. I'm calling from restaurant ABC. And I noticed that you did an event a year ago with us. So I'm calling to see if you want to do that event again. That's a very easy flowing conversation if you know what they've done with you in the past. If calling a company, have basic information on the business. You don't have to go deep dive, right? But understand what they do. If they're like a local construction company, they probably don't have a board meeting. Maybe they do, but probably don't. So you don't want to call them up and say, hey, I'm calling to see if you want to do your board meeting with us. Well, what are you talking about? I don't even have a board, right? But if you're calling IBM, they definitely have a board, right? And you can ask the questions like, hey, you know, I'm sure you have a quarterly board meeting. I like, do you consider my restaurant for your next board meeting? So have some basic information. And again, you don't have to do a deep dive, but have some common sense information. Set a goal for what your call is. If is your goal to get a commitment, you're going to be disappointed if you set the bar that high. Not a lot of people right out of the first phone call are going to say, yeah, well, you know, I was just thinking about that. Good timing. I'll book with you right now. Very rarely happens. Discover a new contact. That's more likely what's going to happen is you're going to call in, you're going to say, hey, and they're going to say either that person doesn't work there anymore or they're not the person who does it anymore. And it's okay to ask, hey, who is that person? And can I get their information? And they'll be happy to share it to you. Again, you're in a really unique position for cold calling is that you're calling from a restaurant or a hotel or unique venue. A lot of people like, that's exciting. That's legitimately, that's interesting because the kind of calls that they get are like want something. You're unique. And then if you call is to plant a seed, and to plant a seed is simple as, hey, I'm calling it. I just want to let you know that we plan on being open for business in May and June and July. And I just want to give you that. And maybe, you know, if you were thinking of doing a meeting, an event, or whatever the case may be, you know, let's talk. So you're just planting the seed. Like Kennedy said, she got the email, she got the direct mail, and she got another email. And those were all just little seeds being planted by the restaurant. So next time Kennedy does catering, she's going to go there first. And that's what a drip campaign does too. last but not least is do not have paralysis by analysis. This understanding who you're calling. I've seen salespeople really waste their time on this. This is a great way of saying I did something without doing anything, by like understanding like their quarterly numbers and if they were profitable or not. Who cares? Don't go that deep. Don't fool yourself that you're doing something by researching a company or a person right to the ground. You just need the basic information. All right, scripts. Let's talk about scripts a little bit. Scripts are your best friend. They provide guidance and keep you focused, especially if somebody interrupts you, if you get caught off guard, if something happens, your dog starts barking, or your kid, you're working from home, so your kid interrupts you, you get thrown off your game. Scripts will bring you back. Scripts are not to be read. Don't sound like a robot, like, hi, this is Jonathan. I'm calling from restaurant ABC. How are you? Don't be a robot on the phone. Be yourself. Think of yourself as at a cocktail party, and you really want to meet this person that you saw at the cocktail party. Be like that. Be yourself. You're in the restaurant. You're in the hospitality business. You're obviously an outgoing person, or you wouldn't really be in that business. So be yourself. If you're interrupted during your pitch, just listen and respond accordingly. And what I mean by that is, like, you might start and you might not even get a sentence in. And the guy goes, nope. Or he goes, oh, yeah, that's not for me. Or he's like, who's calling? Like, what did you say? Don't all of a sudden just keep reading your script. Respond. Like, first of all, listen. I always tell my salespeople when somebody says, who is this? Or where are you calling from? As your second swing of the bat. That's great. I love that question. When I call up and I say, hi, I'm Jonathan, I'm calling from Triple Seat, and they say, where are you calling from? Great, thank you. That's a good question. I get to say it again. So it's a great interruption, in my opinion. If leaving a voicemail, you can read the script. Again, don't sound like a robot, but you can read the script. Talk slowly and leave your phone number twice, because I'm sure all of us who listen to voicemail, the person says their name and what their phone number at the end, but you don't have a pen, right? Or you don't write it down, and you don't want to like rewind it or listen to it again. So you want to say your phone number twice and go slowly. I can't tell you how important it is that you speak slowly. A lot of times with voicemail, people just want to get through it because they don't think anybody's listening to it anyways. So they talk really fast and they say, hi, this is Jonathan. Give me a call back at 978-853-4342. What? What did he just say? Screw it. Hang up, right? Talk slowly. If the script's not working, change it. Stay flexible with it. If you can't even get through a line, or if you like what you're saying isn't really resonating with people, they're like, nope, and they hang up on you. If that happens a lot, not once, but a lot, switch it up. Switch it up. Cold calling is very similar to a subject line, right? What you say, you got to get their attention right away, right? And then you have permission to go forward. If what you're saying right out of the box is causing hangups or people saying no to you before you get the third word out, you got to switch up your script. So just stay flexible with it. What to do if you actually connect, which I say gulp, because a lot of people are like, I'm making the call, but I don't really expect to connect to anybody. And when they do it, it's total panicville. Tell them your name and why you're calling. Follow the script. There's a bunch of don'ts. One is don't ask how they're doing. That's bizarre. When I get that, you're wasting their time. And I don't even know you and you're asking me how I'm doing. That's a weird question. You wouldn't do it at a cocktail party, right? You wouldn't walk up to somebody and say, hi, I'm Jono. How are you doing? Or maybe you would. I don't know. But it's weird on the phone, especially on a cold call. Don't apologize for calling interrupting. You're just coming from a position of weakness. You're you're not apologizing because you're about to give them some valuable information, and you should be proud of that. And you're providing value to their day that they didn't have before you called. So don't apologize for adding value. Don't ask yes or no questions. You get that all the time, right? So a yes or no question is this a good time to call? No, you called me. It's not a good time to call. And they hang up, right? So don't ask questions, and don't immediately assume that you can ask questions. You weren't given permission to ask questions. You called them. And if you immediately start launching into questions, you're making a big assumption on their time. So don't ask yes or no questions. Take a breath, talk slowly, and listen. It's really important to listen, because you might not get through your script and somebody might say, that's interesting, tell me more. So don't continue with your script. They just gave you a buying sign, but you can only hear that buying sign if you listen and talk slowly. Have a call to action at the end of your script. Can I look at some dates for you? Can I send you some information? Can we schedule another call with other people? If you get a voicemail, leave a message. I know most people think nobody listens to voicemails. Not true. And you have a marketing message that's living on their phone. Why wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't you do it? I mean, if you don't do it, you got nothing. You can expect nothing if you do nothing. But if you leave a message, he might call you back, right? Or at least you planted the seed. AIDA of a script. So attention, get their attention, interest. Once you have their attention, you need to keep them interested. Decision, ask or put them in a position to make a decision. And then finally, action. To do something, book with you, give you new information. AIDA. That's kind of the script all throughout sales, not just cold calling. And if you want a more colorful view of it, you can rent the movie Glengarry Glen Ross, which is a fantastic movie, by the way. Baldwin, Alec Baldwin has a great rant on AIDA. Okay. So here's a sample of a script that I wrote. This is just a sample. You should write your own and make it more towards what you do. But here's an idea of how I write my scripts. So I number them, I space them out, and I have big writing on, big lettering on them, and I keep them very short. And what you're going to see is in 2A, 2B, 2C are different scenarios. I'm not doing all three. I'm choosing which one I want to do. So I start, hi, this is Jono. Well, if you know their name, you can say, hi, Mary, hi, Bob. If you don't know their name, it's okay just to say hi. Hi, this is Jonathan, and I'm calling from ABC Restaurant, right? Good. The reason I'm calling you, if I'm going with 2A, the reason I'm calling you is that you booked your name of event in August, and I wanted to follow up with you to see if you would like to book that event again with us again. Or I can say, if I don't have that history, I can use 2B, which is the reason I'm calling is because you had your wedding rehearsal, dinner, birthday party here, and I wanted to check to see if you had any other plans for any upcoming events. Now, you don't want to ask them if they're going to do their wedding again. That would be a little awkward. But listen, they might do their 1-year anniversary, right? They might do their 10-year anniversary, for all I know. They might have, something else going on that, hey, they had a great wedding with you. Why wouldn't they do another special event with you? And again, finally, the reason I'm calling is because we'll be ready. This is kind of more like post-COVID-y, like something you can say right now, which is, this is 2C. The reason I'm calling is because our restaurant will be ready to host events in June. And I wanted to check in with you and give you the first bid on dates for your next event. So this is building, in my mind, this is building a little bit of a sense of urgency. right? Because that's the next part of it, which is like, I want to build a little bit of a sense of urgency here to let them know that, hey, you can book events with us starting in June, but things are booking up. So I'm actually doing you a favor. I'm reaching out to you. You're important. I want you to book with me. So you're the first phone call I made. And then 3, like all restaurants, you tell them a little bit about yourself. Like all restaurants, we had to turn away event business in 2020, but event days in 2021 are already starting to fill up. That's the urgency part. And I'd love to get your business on the books. That's the ask. That's the decision, right? I'm asking them to make a decision right now, which is a very subtle way of asking, do you want to do something or not? And now you're going to get an objection here. This is where you're going to get the objection. They're going to be like, you talked to the wrong guy. I don't do that anymore. What are you talking about? I don't do events, or we're not even looking at June. You might get all sorts of responses. Objections are okay. They're engaging now. They're engaging. And you don't have to apologize. Don't all of a sudden, if they throw an objection at you, be like, oh, I'm sorry I called. No, you're not. You planted a seed. You can say, well, you might not be booking right in June. When do you think you would be booking? I can give you a call back, right? So that is the next steps. What I put in here for is can I review some dates with you? And again, you might get some objections there. You might even not even get to number 4 because they're throwing the objections at you. But objections, again, are your friend. When they object, whatever the reason they're objecting, you have to hear it. So listening is very important. But now you're engaged. You're engaged. And now you can start communicating with them and trying to understand kind of where they're going because you're engaged. All right. Some final thoughts on cold calling, and then we'll kind of launch into some questions. And then Kennedy can jump back in here. No one likes to be sold, but they like to buy. Don't sell. I can't tell you how important that is. Don't be too salesy. Don't be pushy. If they tell you to go pound sand, go pound sand, right? But you're allowed to ask questions and try to steer them in them, but no one to say no mas and try to get a next step out of them, but don't sell. Remember, you are coming from a place of help. Space is filling up, providing information they did not have. Be passionate and real. You are coming from a place of help. Like I said, nobody's contacted me from a restaurant or a venue. And I'll give you a real life example. We do event camp every year. We obviously couldn't do it in 2020, but we did it in 2018. We did it in 2019. We did it in a venue in New York City in 2018, and we did it in Nashville in 2019. We had to postpone 2020, but if a venue just reached out to me and said, hey, are you doing event camp again? I attended last year. We would love to host it. I'd have a conversation with them, but nobody has reached out to me yet. Not a single venue. We did 15 to 20 what we call party people events in 2019. That's where we meet all our users at a bar. We're going to do it again. I'm going to get besieged by phone calls now, but we're going to do it again. But not a single venue has reached out to me and said, hey, are you doing party people again? Would you want to do it here? So you are legitimately doing a service by reaching out to them and ticking their brain off as saying, I know events, you do events, do it here. And I'm being proactive with you. Set aside time for the calls, put them on your calendar. This is like going to the gym, right? If you're going to say, I'm going to do calls, and you put it on your calendar and you're going to do it from 10 to 11, you're more likelihood, if it's on your calendar, you're going to do it versus I'm going to do it tomorrow. Do your best to make 35 calls a day. It should take you an hour. You're not going to talk to every single person. You're not going to have 100% connection rate. You're just not. You're going to probably have around 2 to 3% connection rate, maybe. So what's that? 3 or 4 people you're going to actually talk to, and that conversation itself is only going to take 4 to 5 minutes. So 35 calls a day is nothing. Just it takes an hour. Just do it. You know what I mean? Just dial the phone, man. Keep your expectations low. On average, the connection rate is around 5%. Don't get discouraged. If you're not getting through to people, if you're leaving a lot of voicemail, it's okay. It's like mining for gold. It's like you keep going, you keep shoveling the thing, but you're going to hit gold. It's just not going to hit it the very first time you dig. So just keep that in your mind. Don't get discouraged by it. Momentum is real. If you get a connection, double your calls. This is a fact. If all of a sudden you're starting to hit people, don't stop at 35. Keep going, because the gods have shined on you and you're having a good day. But the opposite is true too. If you're making phone calls and people are just abusing the crap out of you, like hanging up and telling you to go to hell, call it a day. Nobody needs that kind of mental torture, right? Just like, all right, today is not my day. It just can't be every day is not your day. But momentum is real. And last but not least is to stay organized. And how you stay organized is if you're using a drip campaign and you want to follow up on that drip campaign, you should have the list of who we sent the emails to, and you can have it in an Excel. You could set up your tasks, the callback, or whatever the case may be. Inside of Triple Seat, you can set yourself up as a tasks. You can create those lists out of Triple Seat, and you can see who you called and when you called. But it's important to stay organized, and don't make your list crazy big. If you make your list like 1,000 names, it's like eating peas. Every time you eat a pea, it's like there's more peas. Keep your list reasonable, because you're not going to make one call. And that's important to know. Kennedy talked about the 6 to 8 touches. Cold calling is a touch, but it's not one touch. It's part of that sequence. You send an email, follow it up with a cold call. Send an email, no follow-up. Send an email, cold call follow-up, right? So, and you don't want to do all of this drip campaign in like 3 days, right? Because all of a sudden they're going to get 10 emails and 4 phone calls from you. You want to pace it. You want to pace it out. You're not being too obnoxious if you make a cold call once a week or maybe once every 2 weeks. If you make it every day, you're being obnoxious. But so you got to stay organized. And you got to keep your timing in place.